$12.47. That's your balance, not your savings, your balance. You check it at 11:43 p.m., lying on a mat.
You are 22 years old, and your net worth is negative. Not zero. Negative. The student loans sitting in your account are not your money. They are borrowed time, borrowed confidence, borrowed permission to believe that somewhere on the other side of this degree, this city, this entry-level job, things will eventually add up. Your paycheck arrives, and within 72 hours it has already been distributed to people and institutions you will never meet. The landlord, the loan servicer, the credit card company that approved you at 19 because you had a pulse and a campus address. You eat what is affordable, not what you want. You calculate before every transaction. You know, without checking, roughly what your balance is at any given moment, because when you live as close to the edge, the numbers are always running in the background of your mind like a low-grade fever that never quite breaks. This is not a dramatic kind of poverty. There are no cinematic moments of crisis, no single villain, no obvious turning point. It is simply arithmetic that does not work in your favor. And the cruelest part is that nobody talks about it openly. You sit in offices with colleagues who seem fine, who get coffee without hesitation, who book flights without a 3-day deliberation period, and you wonder if you're the only one running this kind of math. You are not, but nobody says so, and so the silence becomes its own kind of weight. The first shift happens not when you earn more, but when you decide that the money you do have will mean something. You pay off one debt, a small one, $300 on a store card you open impulsively. It is objectively minor. But something in your psychology changes the morning you see that zero balance, because for the first time, a number moved because of a choice you made. That feeling quiet, private, almost embarrassing in its intensity is the actual beginning, not the raise, not the promotion, the decision to treat money as something you can influence rather than something that simply happens to you. By 26, you have crossed 5 figures in savings for the first time. $10,000 sitting in an account that belongs entirely to you. No one has a claim on it. It is yours. The psychological weight of this number, when you have never had it before, is completely disproportionate to what $10,000 can actually do. You check the balance repeatedly not from anxiety, but from something closer to wonder. You feel, irrationally but genuinely, like a different category of person. You are not, but the feeling plants something important. The belief that accumulation is possible, that the direction of your financial life can actually be reversed. You begin to read. Not inspirational content, not motivational speeches, actual material about how money moves through the world. What compound interest means in practice over decades. What index funds are and why most professionals cannot beat them. What the difference is between an asset and a liability when you stop using textbook definitions and start applying the concepts to your actual life. You open an investment account and stare at it for weeks before depositing anything. When you finally invest, the market drops the next morning. Every instinct tells you to pull the money out and retreat to the safety of a savings account. You don't. That moment, that single decision not to flinch, is more important than the dollar amount involved. You are learning that fear is not a strategy. At 30, you are earning a reasonable salary. 60, maybe $70,000 a year. You are doing what you were told to do by every responsible financial voice you ever encountered. Contributing to your retirement account. Building an emergency fund. Avoiding lifestyle inflation with the discipline of someone who remembers what zero felt like. By conventional measures, you are doing well. And then one night you sit down and run an honest projection all the way out for decades of disciplined saving at your current income, and the number at the end is not what you imagined. It is adequate. It is survivable. It is not what you want. This is the competence plateau. You have become skilled at not drowning, but you have not yet learned how to build. The salary, you begin to understand, is not a launching pad. It is a ceiling with good lighting. The moment you see this clearly, you cannot return to the comfortable illusion that working harder within the existing structure will produce a fundamentally different outcome. The structure itself is a constraint. So you start something on the side. You do not announce it. You do not call it a business, because calling it a business creates pressure and expectation and the possibility of public failure. It is simply a project, a skill you have monetized, a service you provide on weekends, a small thing that earns a modest amount. $400 the first month, $800 the third, $1,400 by the end of the first year. You reinvest every dollar of it. You eat the same lunches. You drive the same car. You let the gap between what you earn and what you spend quietly widen, and you pour everything into the gap. Your net worth crosses $100,000, then $150,000. At 33, you own a small rental property with equity building slowly each month while a tenant covers a mortgage. You have a brokerage account generating returns on investments you made 2 years ago and mostly forgot about. Your side income, in certain months, exceeds your salary. You begin to understand, not theoretically, but physically, in the rhythm of your bank statements, what it means for money to work rather than merely accumulate. An asset is not a concept anymore. It is a thing you built or bought that earns while you sleep, while you eat dinner, while you do nothing at all. Your relationship with time changes. You begin to evaluate how you spend hours the way you once evaluated how you spent dollars. Every commitment that does not compound professionally, financially, relationally becomes something you examine with a new kind of scrutiny. You start saying no to things you used to say yes to automatically. The group trips where the cost splitting is inherently unfair. The social obligations that cost money without creating anything. The business ideas pitched by people who have never read a cash flow statement. No, no, no. The friction this creates in certain relationships is real. You feel it. You stay quiet and you protect your trajectory anyway. At $300,000, you stop panicking about losses. Not because losses no longer sting. A $9,000 drop in a position still registers, but because you understand now that volatility is the price of admission. The wealthy do not avoid risk. They select it carefully. They understand which risks are correlated, which offset each other, which are worth tolerating because the expected return justifies the discomfort. This is a sentence that would have been meaningless to you at 22. It is now simply how you think. The first million arrives on a Tuesday. There is no ceremony. Your brokerage account updates, and the number is their 7 figures, and you sit with it for a moment, expecting something to happen internally that does not. There is satisfaction, genuine and quiet. And then, almost immediately, clarity. $1 million at a standard return rate is approximately $40,000 per year. That is not freedom. That is a foundation. The milestone was never the destination. It was proof that the system works, that the decisions compounded the way you believed they would, that you were not wrong to trust the process when nothing in your early life gave you reason to. By 40, you're managing capital across multiple assets, a business generating meaningful revenue, a portfolio that earns returns without your daily intervention, real estate equity that grows whether you think about it or not. At 2 million, then 5 million. The game changes texture in a way that is difficult to explain to anyone who has not experienced it. You are no longer working for money. You are moving money, positioning it, allocating it, directing it toward opportunities that your pattern recognition now identifies faster than any algorithm you have encountered. The conversations you have about capital at this level are simply not translatable to the conversations most people have about money. This is not arrogance. It is a linguistic problem. The vocabulary does not transfer across contexts. At 15 million, 30 million, you enter rooms where decisions are made, not celebrated, not announced, simply made. Quiet rooms with small groups of people whose combined capital can redirect industries. You speak infrequently in these rooms. When you do, the room adjusts. This is power in its most compressed and least spectacular form. No performance required. No title necessary. Just the weight of demonstrated judgment and the capital that reflects it. By the time your net worth approaches 100 million, the isolation is not what you expected. It is not loneliness in the conventional sense. It is a distance, a growing gap between your context and the context of almost everyone you have ever known. The things that occupy your mind, dynasty trusts, portfolio correlation, regulatory environments, fund structures exist in a register that most conversations simply cannot reach. You give generously, not for reputation, but because money has long since stopped being a measure of anything meaningful about your character, and giving is one of the few remaining acts that still carries the feeling of genuine choice. And somewhere across the city, a 23-year-old is standing in a grocery aisle putting the better coffee back on the shelf. His phone shows a balance of $1,100. He thinks this is a story about money that if he earns enough of it, something fundamental will be resolved. He does not yet know that the resolution he is looking for is not financial. It is psychological. It is a slow, irreversible transformation of how a person thinks about risk, time, discipline, and the compound interest of every single decision made in obscurity, without applause, without any guarantee of outcome. The machine opens every morning. It does not ask if you're ready. It does not offer encouragement or context or compassion. It simply rewards whoever shows up consistently, patiently, without waiting for permission, without stopping to ask whether the trade is worth it. The balance is $1,100. It always starts somewhere close to there. It always will.